Hey friends, it's Jeff. What you're about to hear is a recording from last month's second Saturday online discussion. Once a month, we host a large online Enneagram gathering where members come together, explore a topic, share their experiences, learn from one another. This Saturday, we're exploring how 3s, 6s, and 9s connect with others in relationships. These discussions typically include about 30 people, and we would love to have you. If you're a 3, 6, or 9, this is for you. If you love a 3, 6, or 9, this is for you. If you're looking to go further with the Enneagram, really connect it to yourself, your relationships, and use it in helpful ways, this is our best resources. So sign up for a membership at aroundthecircle.org. The link is in the show notes, aroundthecircle.org. Find the event link for our event this Saturday, and then join us. These are going to start at 8:30 Pacific, 11:30 Eastern, 4:30 GMT. We hope to see you there. There's so many folks that showed up. Thank you for joining. So I'd name you by name, but it would take me a while now. But there's a handful of you there new who I haven't met. Just welcome. Vivian, I don't know that I've met you yet. Welcome. Sarah Hart is with us. If you have not yet listened to some of our discussions on our Patreon of the Personality and Wholeness, the Dr. Siegel book, Sarah brings the heat and has fantastic things to say in those discussions. Well worth listening just for her. And so, but we're talking 2s, 5s, and 8s, and we're talking about affect today. Katie, howdy.
Good morning.
You got anything before I launch this sucker?
It's good to see everybody today.
Sherry, I'm thrilled you're back as well. Since we're talking 2s, 5s, and 8s, if y'all haven't gotten a chance to listen to the workshop that we did on 4s and 5s, it's phenomenal. And part of that is both Delian's contribution, Sherry's contribution on the 5 side, really, really solid, well worth picking up. But since we're talking 2s, 5s, and 8s, I may be peppering those specific numbers with some questions. It is also the case, however, you may love a 2, 5, or 8. And as we're talking, would love for you to have questions and thoughts in mind. The way that I'm going to set this up today is I'm going to just present for 10 minutes. I'm going to try and fly through some material. If you have paper, it might be very valuable to write down some stuff. But I'm going to fly through like 10 minutes of setup, ask for some questions, and then the remainder of the time, hour 15 or so on, will just be let's talk, let's share our own personal experiences, either as one of these numbers or with the people in our lives who we love that are these numbers. So talking about affect groups today. Affect groups ends up being a set of triads. This is the 3, 6, 9 triad, the 2, 5, 8 triad, the 1, 4, 7 triad. A lot of the material that's on this comes from Dr. David Daniels, who is a Stanford professor, and recently by Dr. Daniel Siegel, who is a neurobiologist at UCLA, in his book on Enneagram. The reason that these guys grab this, it seems, is that it overlaps with a lot of contemporary psychological theories, specifically affect theory and object relation theory. I'm going to use some their terms, and I'm going to kind of show the overlap of like what what psychologists kind of point to here, because object relation theory in particular really wants to talk about early childhood development and how we begin to connect with other human beings, one, and two, how we confront our underlying feeling. And lo and behold, those two things overlap. How we confront the fear, shame, and anger that we experience is either directed outward, inward, or in what Siegel calls a dyadic pattern. That is, it's going in both directions. So 1s, 4s, and 7s are going to confront their fear, shame, and anger internally. 2s, 5s, and 8s are going to confront fear, shame, and anger externally. And 3, 6s, and 9s do kind of this balance of confronting those emotions both inwardly and outwardly. That becomes really important because it seems to, and I haven't said this ever, but it patterns exactly with how these types seek to connect with other human beings as well. So 2s, 5s, and 8s are going to be the triad that we look at. These are called the Relationists or the rejection triad in object relation theory. The rejection triad expects rejection in their relationships, and that's what the psychologists who work on this want to say. They expect rejection in their relationship. I want you to note there's a time dynamic here. Orientation to time is always really interesting to me, but there is a time dimension to affect groups. The rejection triad, twos, fives, and eights, are anticipating something relationally. So, in meeting their shame, meeting their fear, meeting their desire for control, they are anticipating that those outside of themselves will reject them. And that's a future orientation. Differently is the idealists, or what are called the frustration triad in affect theory, in object relation theory. The frustration triad, these are the idealists. They have kind of a past orientation because you don't get frustrated by something that hasn't happened, and you don't necessarily get frustrated by what's occurring. The frustration comes after the fact. When the connection doesn't take place, that's when frustration hits for the ones, fours, and sevens. The three, sixes, and nines, also, by the way, ones, fours, and sevens are pulling people into their inner experience. The one is pulling you into action. The four is pulling you into an emotional experience. The seven wants you to dream with them about what could be. All of them have that internal orientation. This is what Dr. Daniel Siegel calls a tendency. That's the direction of your affect. And so these directions matter: inward, outward energy, or in both directions. In both directions, it's the three, six, nines. Three, sixes, and nines seem to oppose their shame, fear, and anger, both internally and externally at the same time. You can kind of see this best with nines who are trying to keep everything calm within, trying to keep everything calm outside. The three maybe telling, like, will be image crafting in average space externally and internally, want to feel that feeling of success both internally and externally. The six, very aware of their fear internally and externally. It's going in both directions. They're opposing that. What happens when connecting is that direction continues. Three, sixes, and nines create spaces both for themselves and for other people when they're connecting. So the nine is not only seeking to create spaces of calm for themselves. In order to connect with you, they're creating spaces of calm for you. And for the six, they not only want to feel safe themselves, they want the people around them to feel safe. And that's how the connection for these types, the strategies for these types, works. The three wants to feel successful. Once you feel successful, when we both feel successful, that's where connection takes place. But the idealists pulling you in, the pragmatists, that's, by the way, three, sixes, and nines are the pragmatists. Pragmatists will attach to those who give them what they need, and they will detach from those who essentially oppose the thing that they need most. And so they're called pragmatists because a lot of the relationship dynamic for three, sixes, and nines has that pragmatic element. Does this work? Does this person provide me the safety I desire? Does this person provide me the harmony and calm that I desire? Does this person provide me the sense of self and mutual success that I desire? Those are the places where attachment takes place. And when those things don't happen, the person becomes unsafe, the person becomes chaotic, the person becomes really oily and messy and just a bother to be seen with. Detachment. Again, this is all, as with most Enneagram language, caricature. There's some stereotype here, but I want you to kind of see the underlying flow of ideas. And those are the affect groups: relationists, idealists, pragmatists. I want to talk briefly about, to make this overly complicated, uh, instincts as well. But before I jump into that, Katie, do you see anything there? Am I missing anything there that's worth talking about?
I don't think so. I have a question set up when we actually get to two, fives, and eights, but
Perfect. What I'm going to do is talk about instincts with the other two triads, and then all of our time is going to be spent with twos, fives, and eights. And then future sessions, we'll do the other two groups.
I am
Um, Go
I'm
ahead.
gonna send something in the chat right now. Just like Jeff said, David Daniels is a big guy on this. I'm gonna send his website where he talks about this if you want to pull it up on your computer or your phone. And I find it helpful to have text in front of me and follow along. So if you click that link I just sent and you scroll down a fifth of the way into the page to where he starts talking about harmony triads, that's what we're doing today.
It's
So
perfect.
just in case anybody wants some notes in front of them while we chat.
Thank you.
Of course. That's all.
Um, Also, as a visual for the future, our seventh chapter in TJ and I's book is covers this. If you want to dive into this a little bit more.
So I would love to hear from two, fives, and eights today. So I sent that link in the chat if anybody has that David Daniels website open. You'll see that, like Jeff just said, two, fives, and eights are the relationists, correct? Is that what he's calling
That's
them?
right. Or the rejection triad.
Um, I want to quote, I think this is super interesting. He says, the path for those of us leading with one of these types, two, five, or eight, is to release the deeply held concern of being rejected and disempowered, found useless, and thus annihilated. And so I'm wondering, I want to set up this question for our two, fives, and eights today. Do you expect to be rejected in relationships? Really? I imagine that's not like a conscious thought. Maybe it is. I imagine you don't wake up and say, "Oh boy, I can't wait to see how often I get rejected today by everybody," right? Like I don't imagine that's what's going through your head. But do you, I guess my question for you is, do you relate to that? Would you use a different word? Do you expect to be rejected? What about you would get rejected? You know what I mean? Because I'm hearing that from my three view of like shame and you don't want people to see you and all this stuff. So I'd be interested. I wonder if we could start with twos and we can maybe go around. Also, because twos, at least for me, are the easiest to see where, oh, sure, this person expects to be rejected, right? Are twos in the room? Or again, if anybody else has another question for a two to set it up. That's my question for you. Do you expect to get rejected? Would you put other words around that? How do you experience that in your life?
So I don't think that I personally feel like I'm going to be rejected because in most instances I have this. So oh my goodness, this is a safe place, right? We can just say the things.
Not
Yes.
being recorded. Sorry about that.
Well, because honestly, I'm pretty sure I can get you to like me if I set my mind to it because I'm social enough and I have the Southern accent and I've got all the things. I'm going to be able to draw you in. So I don't know that I feel I go into things thinking I'm going to be rejected. I am surprised when I can't draw you in. And then I start feeling like that I'm the reason that I can't draw you in. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
It does. Can I put a special spin on this and elevate the underlying feeling? There is a source in the hearts of all of our hearts, but for twos, fives, and eights, they do have an experience of that relational disconnection, shame, that fear, or that sense of vulnerability for the eight. There's a famous two who was adopted as a child. This has profound meaning in her life because she expects rejection in that space. That is a real space for her. And it has motive written all over everything else she does. And it may be unconscious. I bet you she's very able to win you, as it were. But in terms of motive, bone motive, it affects her because she expects rejection at a different kind of level. Said that way, the five likewise has experienced getting hit in the mouth by the world, and so has the eight. The five has knows what it's like to be un unprepared, to not have what they need in a certain moment, and the eight knows what it's like to get hurt, and those things ring hard for them. I think in their bones when coming to other relationships. I don't know if that's helpful, but that's helpful for me. I don't know if y'all relate to that.
Are you saying that two, fives, and eights remember rejection in a way that
Yes,
other numbers don't?
correct. I think that this is huge for Enneagram type, and probably the most important thing that will get said this time. We interpret the world through our Enneagram type. What matters to us most is absolutely determined by your type. I don't have those experiences. I don't expect rejection in relationships. I have very different issues that I need to overcome that have to do, again, much more with frustration. Our interpretations come forth from that. So I suppose this is all theory, 258's expected rejection. It's not my theory. And in theory, it's not even part of the Enneagram. Like I'm drawing it in because Dr. David Daniels does on this front. But thoughts?
Mama, would you expect to be rejected if you did not have access to your tools, to your Southern accent and your charming self, and if it was just you?
I don't really identify with that.
Hmm.
I think that I fear if I don't keep up, if I don't do everything on my end to keep up the relationship, like if I wake up and realize that I haven't texted Hootie Hoo to check on her in 2 weeks, that she's going to not love me anymore because she's going to feel like I don't care about her. I don't think really, she probably hasn't even thought about it because she's been busy and I've been busy. And, when we get back together, it'll be fine. So I don't know that I really expect to be rejected.
How is what you just said different than rejection?
Can I offer a
Yeah.
spin to see if it lands? It may not land
Please,
with the other
please.
Sarah, without an H, who's also a 2. I feel like we've got something going here. I completely agree with you that I feel like I can make anyone like me if I want to. There's many times I don't want to. In fact, the attention I seek is the opposite. I feel like I have that skill, and yet for me, rejection is always a foregone conclusion. I will eventually be rejected. And so I live in this space in between the two where I'm constantly trying to mitigate the rejection or buy time between the acceptance and the rejection, or the attention and the rejection. I just wanted to share that because I feel like
That's well said.
there's more of a linear story. Like in a moment, I don't feel like I'm anticipating rejection. I'm anticipating how I bring you in. But if I really go deeper into why I'm doing that, it's because I'm trying to buy time before I feel that inevitable rejection.
Let me spin it a different way. I don't know that we ended up talking about gifts yet, but 2s, 5s, and 8s is where 3, 6s, and 9s are space creators, and 1, 4s, and 7s pull you into their spaces. 2s, 5s, and 8s are giving gifts. My assumption is that 2s know exactly what it's like to give a gift that they don't know if it will be received. And giving that gift, in part, is giving yourself. There is, I assume, some kind of energy there that as you are giving your service, as you're giving your love and help, that anticipation of will this be received is perhaps what is being labeled here as expecting rejection. Underlying that is, do you have value? And seeking to establish one's value is in that space, as the 2 is an earner and seeking to earn their value. So again, to move back to our friend who was adopted, there is a sense in her adoption story, there's a sense of valuelessness because she was rejected by her mom. And the question of will I be accepted just seems to, in her language as she describes her 2ness, ring very heavy for her in terms of all of her relationships and the energy that she brings to them. And she likewise can win people, probably has a lot of self-confidence in her ability to win people. And that's kind of her wheelhouse, is winning people. But the motive.
You know that you have the tools that are sharp enough and perfect enough to win almost anybody. But is it true that if you didn't use them, they wouldn't be in relationship with you?
I think maybe so. I think if I am really honest, I always say there's been 2 people in my world so far that my charm did not work on. And it was my mother and my brother. And so those, I think I try all the time to make everybody else in the world, oh my goodness, y'all, that's what I'm doing. I I feel rejected by my brother and my mother, the two people that you could
Yes.
arguably say at least one of them should be the one that wants me the most, right? So I'm using all of that every time I meet somebody to make up for that. Oh, y'all. Good grief.
This is important.
Therapy.
This was Katie's reflection on one of our podcasts that I kept talking about a circle of trust with twos, fives, and eights, and Katie rightly corrected it to be a circle of vulnerability. The expectation of rejection may not be with everybody. It may actually be with just those who are closest to you. That there is an energy around the people who are in your small circle. That's where that's where a lot of the energy can be manufactured. But that's what I hear in that language is my mom and my brother really, 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 really matter to me. And there's an energy, there's an emotion that's tied to that. That's where I found that really helpful.
Sarah Hart, what do you think about all this? If I can put you on the spot.
Yeah, you can, but also like this is dark stuff. Like I was thinking about what Dalian said, if I stop giving, and then in parentheses, knowledge, love, caring, or action towards potential, then you won't
Yep.
accept me for who I am. And so I've been thinking a little bit about that, and giving has never landed for me.
Mm.
It's absolutely manipulation. It's manipulation to create and control the connection, create and sustain the connection. I think for a lot of twos, that looks like traditional giving. I think for this dark two, maybe it looks more like controlling manipulation, if I'm really honest. People who are not that important to me, it looks like giving. People who are important to me, it looks like manipulation.
Create and sustain the connection is perfect language for that. That's so good. So good.
You all are
Well,
now my
look,
best friends, and we're in a
yeah,
circle of trust, right?
both you Sarahs,
Absolutely.
you are loved and seen. So glad that you're here. Make my life a joy. Um, fives. Hey Sherry, I have the sense that fives are the easiest to see here. That they're giving gifts from behind glass. That they are putting floaters out there relationally, and it's done through information. It's can you hang? Do you see the world the way I do, and can you engage intellectually? And if you can, then we can be pals. But there's like I get the sense that in terms of affect group, the five does know that they don't want to waste a lot of energy on folks. They're going to give some information that's free. Here's free information, but let's see who you are. I'm going to observe you, and then I'm going to see whether or not you're worthy of the energy that I have. Does that connect with you? And how would you maybe plus that or move through that?
I'm sure it does. It's not landing right this minute, honestly. I think that because I was so deep in the rejection thing, and
Yeah.
so I'd have to think about that one. But I think what the Sarahs are saying, thank you. I took a course from Belinda Gore on object relations and the Enneagram, and she really helped me understand the sense of rejection by the family is the experience of the five. I don't remember the other numbers, but so that's kind of deep. I don't consciously in any way expect rejection at all. I would
Yeah.
never have said that, but I don't expect connection. So I think that's almost like a pre-rejection. It's kind of like living in the state of rejection. And so in relationships, my sense is that I'm probably not going to be fully met. And that may be that intellectual piece.
That's
I have to be met at a certain level of, I wouldn't say knowledge, but there has to be something curious. I'm very drawn to people that are just very, very alive, emotionally, spiritually, intellectually. And then then I'm interested in connection. But I would, looking back at my life, the things that have fallen apart, and much of it has, it's usually me reaching a point of vulnerability and then doing something unconsciously that's a kind of a pre-rejection, probably, if I'm really, really honest
Yep.
about it. Yeah.
And that orientation in time, I think, really matters here. The pre-posturing.
Hmm.
The Perhaps I could push on this and let somebody else hear in a second. But the heart's message for the five, as you'll know, is your needs are not a problem. That's a relational dynamic to me in mind. And that's where the overlap for expecting rejection for me might come into being. I think twos, fives, and eights all don't want to have needs. That's a big part of their relationship to the world. But fives in particular, being in the head triad, are very aware of their resources.
For me, that lands the needs thing is very, very big. And again, that's sort of the family history stories.
Yeah.
Just whatever you do, don't have a need. Take care of it yourself. Yeah.
Yes. Because and so I love that you're saying the word rejection here doesn't ping, but there is something there of
Yeah.
not having that connection take place in that space, in the provision space. That's good.
Since we're talking about how people relate to each other, Sherry, I'm wondering if you relate to this. My adult son is a 5. And here's what I've observed about him. He's typical of a 5. He tends not to put himself out in front, but in the right time, in the right place, the last thing before the conversation ends, he'll put out one little pearl, that is the thing that he's been thinking on and saving his energy for. But what I observe is that from a relationship standpoint, everybody likes him. Like, I don't know of anyone who doesn't like him. And I'm wondering, from almost from a motivational standpoint, is that a strategy?
No, he doesn't care. That's the opposite of I don't know your son, but I'm just saying the 5
Mm-hmm.
isn't looking to be liked. And so that's, I think, the thing about watching the 2s is so fascinating. We're coming from the same pain, but the 2s are seeking to be liked. And I know I'm not. I'm seeking to be understood, met, other things, but liked isn't. And I think people tend to like 5s because we're not intrusive, we're not that judgmental, we're pretty neutral, we're kind of easy, we're sitting in the back,
Mm-hmm.
we're not,
Mhm.
energetically taking over usually.
I'd be curious with
Thank you.
fives, the thing that is valued on these fronts may be very different across the board of what is most essential. Some fives, like my kid, are going to hold their relationships and being liked in high regard, but that's an asset that will protect them, which is their primary motive. But they think that is the asset. Some fives don't think that's the asset. Something else is the asset. And the five, six, sevens, in terms of what they possess that will appease their fears and provide them the sense of security, ought to likewise be named. And Sherry, I think you're doing a great job of saying, I assume given your vantage, there's probably a list of things in your mind of this is most essential for me to accumulate in order to ensure that I have what I need moving into the future. Yeah.
There's also a life stage issue here. When you're young,
True.
like is important, and it was to me then too. So
That's a good
I
call.
think I've
Yeah.
kind of grown out of that more and can own that a little bit more now.
Yeah, that's well said.
Sherry, this is a question that you feel free to be like, I don't want to answer that because you said at the beginning, you said something about, you might have to say it again because I don't want to put words in your mouth. You said something about getting too like far enough into a relationship and then you'll like pre-reject it. You'll like do something to pre. What does that look like? Like, what do you do?
I will start to assess things that aren't working
Mm.
and get a sense that this probably needs to be like it's like we're outgrowing each other, or there'll be some story there, and then convince myself that it's not fixable, and that doesn't mean that I do something overt necessarily. It could
Yeah,
just
that
be
would be my
sort of
next
the slow
question.
fade, but there's something that disconnects inside. Yeah. Does that answer?
That it does. And I really liked that you said because so spoiler, my question for 3, 6, and 9, I think it's we're the types least comfortable with feeling uncomfortable. And so we disconnect from things, right? And so I really liked that you said, well, I'll start to feel a certain way, but it's a slow fade. I don't automatically do something about it. It might not be overt.
Oh, it
Because
could
for
take
me, it
years.
is not a slow, like that is that's bad in my life. It is not a slow fade, right? So I thought that was interesting that you can hold that discomfort for a little longer, if that's how you would say it. But
Is it not the case, Sherry, to build on that, that the discomfort is external and you simply will move backwards into whatever your withdrawn space looks like?
I'm not sure what that means.
My impression of, again, theory, the fives have the things that would make you uncomfortable, assuming that something makes you uncomfortable, is external to yourself. It's not inside yourself that you're
I think that's
worried.
correct. Yeah, that's accurate.
Yeah. This would be different for a 7 who is absolutely running from the negativity within. That's why they're active. 5s, oppositely. The external is what's problematic.
Yes,
Interior
that's true.
space is safe. Yeah.
And that's what's being protected.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. Did that hit where you were here? Yeah, Katie?
thank you. Thank you, Sherry.
That's a thing. Sarah rightly put up that some of us are in relationships across 2, 5s, 8s. And so since we don't have any 8s, I would love to talk about that connection for a moment. Is it, Sarah, you're married to what type?
5.
Both Sarah's married, 2's married to 5s. Just talking across that real quick. My guess
We've been married for
here
essentially 30
is
years,
that
and our biggest disagreements
y'all
have
connect
been about gifts.
very well across affect
Oh, talk about
groups.
that.
You are used to giving
I
gifts,
want them
and your spouse is
I
used to
want
giving
them
gifts in order to connect. Again, I
chosen
want to
and
say that
delivered
like
perfectly.
these types,
But
2s,
even
5s,
when they
8s are
do,
giving what
the
they
ick
have from
factor of
behind
being the
glass.
recipient
And so
kicks in. So
self-revelation
it never
is,
lands
again,
well.
can only take
My
place inside a small
husband
circle for
hates
2s, 5s, and
gifts,
8s.
hates
This
thinking
is
about gifts,
intuitively
feels like he can
known
never get it
in
right.
just how
And
you are in the
that's been
world, as opposed
reinforced
to relationships with other types.
by the way I react. So he doesn't want
And
to receive.
my
He
assumption is
has
that's an easy
he has
place for
bags
those who are 2s, 5s, and 8s
of
to
cards that have
engage
been
because
given
they
to
give
him that
gifts
he's
in the
never
same way.
opened.
That would be my
Is
guess.
the idea of
land for you?
the idea of receiving that emotional message
Katie, I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm
Yeah, yeah.
1 for
is
12
intolerable.
today in terms of my batting
Well,
average.
No, it's okay. You ask big questions
it could
and
just be
people
unique
need
to us.
to think about them for a little bit.
Well, Sarah, it clearly
I also
connected
don't
with
wanna
reframing that. Miss Whitlock.
Yeah,
assume that
no,
my
no,
like
it is
no
not just
response
unique to
is
you.
specific to
Although
the
I do not think
fives.
he
It
has
might be
bags of
something outside of
cards.
that.
But if he's upstairs, I don't even know if he can hear some of this conversation, but the same. Like, and then a couple of Christmases ago, we had to have a whole conversation because I have 2 daughters of Katie, and then we have Elena, and he just abdicated the whole like gift giving like to them because like Katie took it over and enlisted Elena, and they did it, and we had to have a big conversation about how that is no, I'm not interested. Not that I didn't appreciate what they did. Don't hear that, Katie, but I want him to do it. Yeah. We also have been married for almost 30 years. We are evidently identical twins. So there we go.
Can I talk about how I see both my parents giving?
Love it.
Because first of all, those stories were very funny. I'm glad you both shared this. Sarah Hart, as you were talking, I was like, my mom is gonna relate to that. But when we talk about two, fives, and eights giving gifts, right? It can be physical gifts, but it also can be like fives give you knowledge. That's the gift that they're giving you, right? It's not the physical gift. It's twos are giving you love. Eights are giving you strength. That's the gift, right? And so I see that in both of my parents super easily. I think my friends see it, even though my friends don't speak Enneagram, but they'll tell me, one, I just have good parents, so they're in my life because of that. But they will say, your parents like are just always present in your life. Like they'll be like, they're just always around and like giving you stuff. And they don't mean like physical stuff, although sometimes it is. Like my friends notice that my parents are always pouring into me. And I'll give you two examples of how that's true. My father, the five, for being the number that everyone talks about isn't relational and all the things. He will schedule coffee dates with me in the morning to talk about my Enneagram business because he is a business guy and that is what he is competent at. And he will give me advice for like an hour and a half that he would charge anyone else for. And he will go through a whole part of my business with me and be like, this is what you should do, this is what you should do, this is what you should do. And I never asked him for it. I never brought it up. He just gives that to me for free,
And
right?
that's how he's loving you.
And he loves it. Yes, and I love it. And that's how he's loving me. Absolutely. That's how he's loving me. I've told this story. He did it for college too. Like when I couldn't decide what college to go to, he put all of my options in a spreadsheet and like compared all of them for me and just handed it to me, right? That's a gift from a five, right? Twos, my mama, one, will hand me a relationship already formed for me. So she'll find somebody that she thinks I like, that I would like, and she'll give them to me because she knows that's hard for me. So she'll give me people that she thinks I like. She gives me love. She calls me, she checks in. I know that I can call her and she can just hear something in my voice and she'll start to do the relational work that she knows I need, right? And the advice that she knows I need and all the things. So, long story short, both my parents, it feels like they're always looking for a way to give you something. And what they're giving you is completely different. But it does always feel like if an opportunity arises for them to give you what they want to give you, they will. And I imagine that shows up in their other relationships as well. I'm thinking of like the twos and fives I know for another 2 and 5 couple that I'm friends with. They do that as well, I think. But that was long-winded. But that's what I see.
I'd love to pivot. I just lost Delian. If you're still there, I'd love to talk to you. But is anyone else married to in a relationship with an eight? Thank you. Delian, would you talk about gift giving and specifically the gifts of strength and protection that you experience and like how that's a love language?
Absolutely. This is probably one of the things that drew me to Raymond the most. Speaking of which, he's calling. Sorry, Raymond, I will call you back. Don't expect to experience that as rejection. So for him, yes, what he offered right away and continues to every single day of my life is to say, I see who you really are. I see your strengths. I see what you're capable of. And I'm so sorry, babe. And he says, let's get you there. Let's go.
Yeah,
and that's
right.
I'm now going to call him back. I will be back though. This has been an
Perfect.
awesome conversation. Twos, fives, you've been so good.
Is anyone else in a relationship with an eight or have children there an eight? I have an eight child, I suppose.
I'm married to an 8
Yeah. Would you like to speak to that, Galen?
up in New Hampshire. I would say my husband does not identify, and I've heard other 8s say that they don't notice that they're going to expect rejection. So my mother-in-law's a 2 and my husband's an 8.
Mm-hmm.
And I do see a difference there because they both seem unaware of it, but that's typical because I'm a 3. I'm not going into a relationship being like, if this doesn't work, I'm out. It just kind of boom happens.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, but you did it again. I don't think that he would say that he expects rejection. And I've heard that a lot of times from 8s. I don't know if it's the cover, but he will say things like, if you ever leave me, I'll haunt you till the day I die.
Yep.
And I'm like, what?
Yep.
we just got married. I'm not going. You know, it's kind of funny. And it's funny that I see that underlying emotion there too. So hearing Sarah talk about, well, I know I can win these people in the present to feel like I am valued and I have, you know, this ideal vision of a mother, of what a mother should be. That's what I see with my mother-in-law. My husband, I can see much more that it's future focused. It's going on the past betrayal that he has felt in his life, and it's moving to the future. So it's like an anticipation almost. And that's
the stance and the affect kind of blend there, I think, for the 8 in terms of anticipating things a week from now and doing things to ensure that you do not get hurt. What was singing in my heart as you were talking about was that sense of vulnerability from 8s and the radar for potential betrayal. This is not spoken by the 8. This is overwhelming for the 8. We don't. This is why I think 2s, 5s, and 8s, I've always said this, are the hardest to understand because the rest of us don't see what's going on in your inner life. There is and this is part of that affect. There's so much coming out of the motive that we can't see, the like underlying motive. It really saw this in Sarah's language that was very well articulated in Sarah Hart's language in terms of the actual underlying motive of what is behind the help. But so too the 8 here, how the posture is in the world often is a mask, as it were, in my experience, for that sense of vulnerability and betrayal, unless they're real healthy or in your circle. You're in their circle and can say it. Am I wrong there? Does that ping for you, Galen? Or Deli?
It does. And I have one other question. So between the 2s, 5s, and 8s, and we don't have an 8 here, but I know my husband pretty well. You know, 8s are an open book, even when they're trying to hide behind something. Mm-hmm. One question I have, so I, as a 3, have that like fierce independence. I'm sure, Katie, do you identify with that? So it can be a struggle sometimes because I'll say, well, I don't need help. I got it. I know what I'm doing, you know? And so whenever I do ask him to do something, he's like, oh my gosh, yes, I'd love to do that. And because we don't have an 8 here to speak to it, do 2s and 5s struggle with people who have that fierce independence relating on a level of they're not receiving what I'm here for?
That's a
It's a
great
good question.
Hey,
Ellie,
so I
yeah.
just asked Raymond because he was here. And to him, it's what he said was no, he doesn't expect betrayal or rejection. He actually expects the opposite. And when it doesn't happen, it's abhorrent. And there's no space for that to exist. You're just probably out
You're
at
cut
that point.
off.
Yeah. He's also a social 8. I don't know if that would make a big difference across the 3 8s and how they experience potential betrayal or rejection, but
I would love to swing back to this idea of expecting rejection. I think Galen's question, I want to turn back real quick to Galen's question about, rephrase it for me because it had some sauce on it that
It was when you're in a relationship with someone who has that fierce independence, or I can do it by myself. Like my mom always said that about when I was young. I can do it by myself, Mama. And so does that throw up kind of flags for 2s, 5s, and 8s? And we don't have an 8, but we have 2s and 5s. To say, like, what does that feel like if I'm not receiving the gift that you're giving?
That's it.
Katie, can I tell the story?
Sure. I don't know which one you're telling, but you can tell
So
anything.
The story.
the only hiccup that we've had during your wedding planning, I
Oh,
think
sure.
speaks
Yeah.
directly to this. So Katie is getting married in October, and I think that I had a picture of what my role would be in the wedding planning. And guess what? My 3 daughter has had a spreadsheet. She knows what she wants. She knows what she doesn't want. She makes decisions quickly. Like, she does not really need me in the way that I thought she was going to need me to make the list and help call the people and connect and make sure, and the dresses and all the things. And it kind of came to a head, a month ago, I guess. And we just had to have a conversation about it. And my feelings were hurt, and she was frustrated, and we had to cry. But we both, at the end of that, were like, oh, she does need me, but she just needs me to stand alongside. She doesn't need me to direct or give in the way that I thought I was going to be given. So yeah, we get a little cranky when you don't accept all the help. Why would you not want all my help? I mean, so is that true,
That's a
Katie?
great illustration.
Did I tell that kind of the way it went?
And I think it's good. I think it's interesting that we're bringing up stance too, right? Because the 5s were like, we heard it in Sherry's language. Oh, this person doesn't need my help. Right? Okay. 8s. I don't know how we would characterize the 8s there, but I'm hearing a lot of stance there too. And so in my mom's, I'm hearing a lot of the reactive stance. Well, I do still want to be connected, right? I do still want to be here. So now what are we going to do? Right?
I want to build on this in terms of just what I think is so important to name with affect groups as we go through this. There's what I'm giving you and whether or not it's received. And then there's what you're giving me and whether or not it's received. And if just one of those things breaks, the relationship doesn't work. If it does, if all 4 of those things work in tandem, then the relationship works. And naming how the people in your life who you really care about, what they are offering you matters, because it may very well be the case that you don't want this. I love how this particular illustration is working. If you can recharacterize, look, I understand that you are so valuable to me. You're in my life. You are giving me gifts. Let me reposition and say, this is the gift that I really need from you and want from you right now. Can be incredibly helpful to say, like the 2 can't possibly connect to other human beings outside of their Enneagram type. That's just who you are and how connection works for you. So characterizing the gift that I need ends up looking like this and not like this allows for that energy to go somewhere. In the same way, what I'm hearing with, I imagine both of you have probably thought through this wedding for a little bit, perhaps a decade or more. And your type is coming in here, and the 3 and the image that they have in their mind for themselves and this event probably is severe. And how the 3 is going to connect to everybody else in that space, likewise, is going to have all sorts of relational dynamics as well. So the offer to, can you meet the 3 in terms of what they're offering you is likewise essential. So talking through the fact that you were able to speak through that, the resolution that came about, and how the circuit is established, all beautiful. And that seems like a worthy prototype for talking about the places that our relationships break down.
I think that's a great point, Jeff. It brought me back to a question I put earlier in the chat of like how 2 5s and 8s would define or explain rejection. Like, what is that experience for them?
Can I build on that, Asher?
Yeah.
Because Delian brought this up earlier, and I wanted to highlight it, because So again, expect rejection isn't my language. So let me push into, and I haven't done the study here yet. That's going to be in a bit. But the what I wanted to say is there's something really primal and core associated with shame, fear, and anger that's in relationships is probably masked, but has enormous power. And I think we got there with the twos at some level. I think you could you could talk about it with the eights, the both Gillian and Delian in terms of talking about their husbands. They're strong. They're in the world. You're not going to hurt them. However, there is something underneath that. They're not showing it to you. They're certainly not showing it to me because they might get hurt, and it has power. That's the thing. They might get hurt and it has power. So whatever that's going to get characterized, expect rejection, maybe a bad language, but I think this is real. And so too for the five, they know what it's like to fear the thing out there. And the vast majority of their energy is spent, motive, shoring up the resources that they have to protect themselves from that future problem. That's where I wanted to go. Do you want to plus that, Asher, and we can float it to everyone?
Yeah. I think the reason why I'm bringing up or revisiting that question is because I think it's a really helpful thing for like the relational friction and relational conversations, like some of the examples that have been giving. The question of like, how does one transcend their own taste, right? So like when I used to live in Houston, a lot of the work I did was around hospitality and with like feeding unhoused community and stuff like that. So I got to know a lot of really great chefs, like really great chefs through that work. And one thing great chefs, like a trait that all great chefs have in common, is they're able to transcend their own taste, right? Like they have their favorite food, they have their favorite thing, but they're able to kind of get around and transcend that taste. And so kind of the question that I'm angling at is like, there seems to be a relationship between this, what we're just currently calling rejection, like what someone's expecting or desiring from their affect group. And so then to be in relationship, there's an invitation here to kind of like transcend that. And so what someone may be experiencing as rejection may not actually be rejection. And I got a whole lot of this for 3, 6s, and 9s because I'm working with a 3 right now at the hospital. And we've had all kinds of great conversations around affect and cope, not like using Enneagram language, but it's like affect and coping coming up. And yeah, so that's kind of where I'm going with that. It's like, what is it that, how is it we're kind of defining that thing, that Daniels is labeling as rejection? And then maybe that can offer us a doorway into kind of like transcending our own taste.
Can I say something?
I'd kind of like to speak to the rejection thing. I've been in relationship for 40 years with an 8, married for 26. We were best friends before and we still are. And he goes into these partnerships and businessy things. He does not expect rejection, but what happens is betrayal. And he stores himself up so it won't happen again. And it happens over and over and over. And then when that betrayal happens, it's not worked out or forgiven. Like some of those, the anger towards that can go on for decades. On the other side, the strengths and things, he's also a terrible gift giver when you have to give something, like on occasions. But he will still, we don't live together, and he'll come by and notice that my tire is a bit down and needs to be done. Like he just came and stacked 4 cords of wood for me over the last month. He just comes in and sees that needs to be done. So the the strength and protection, and he does that with his kids too. That's his way of giving, is something that's going to support them being taken care of rather than, the other outward gifts. But the point I really wanted to make was the difference between rejection, because I don't believe he even takes that as rejection. He takes it as betrayal.
I would love to build on that. You're opening something up for me. And this builds on what Sherry said. Say it's the case for twos, fives, and eights, and this may just be intuitive for y'all. It's not for me. It seems to me that twos, fives, and eights have their small circle. And then there's everybody else.
Yeah.
And the everybody else, they don't need anything from those folks. They will relate to them, and they'll get some stuff from them. They don't need anything from them. The small circle is different. The small circle is where they actually expose their inner life. And that matters because twos, fives, and eights don't expose their inner life very often. So the gift giving is about testing. It's about testing whether or not you will actually meet me in that space. The expecting and rejection may be a bad set of phrases for that, but I think this is what's going on. There are people there that are in your vulnerable circle, and those people are different, and the type of attention sought is different, and the gifts that you give of care in that space are different. And here's the thing, they have different speed on them. You're throwing that pitch with something extra. You actually, when giving to this person, you really do need them to tell you that they love you in return. You can give your gifts helter skelter to everybody, right? To get the attention. But the people in the small circle better reciprocate. Isn't that right? Oh, that works. Okay, never mind.
Wait, I have a question. And then Veronica had something to say. But just before we lose this, Jeff, can you talk? How is that? I think all people have a circle of people that they trust and then like the greater world, right? So can you a three, I have things that I tell Jason, my mother, that nobody else knows about me, right? So I imagine that is not quite what you're saying. So can you put some more words on how you're seeing two, fives, and eights be different than just like everybody who has close relationships versus not close relationships? Does that question make sense?
It does. Maybe it's the case that I'm pinning this on the twos, fives, and eights. Maybe I'm the outlier here. Maybe
Like
the
I would
ones,
just
fours,
say
and sevens are the
threes do
outliers.
that. I think sixes do that, right?
It could
Like
be.
I think a lot of numbers do that.
I think it has to do with how each type is dealing with vulnerability. Vulnerability isn't about the rejection, it's about the uncertainty. And so, like for two, fives, and eights, it's a different doorway into vulnerability. Vulnerability is just like showing up in a situation where you have no control over the outcome. And so it's not like oversharing. And so I think the two, fives, and eights are like using this gift giving to see like, is this someone that I can be vulnerable with? Is this somebody that I can let go of some control with?
Complex answer. This is gonna overlap with your wings stuff, Katie. It's that you're gonna share something with the two here. It's the external direction of shame. The external direction of shame matters in terms of how the two and the three is connecting with the world, but the two is more severe because they are all in on the exterior problem. The exterior problem is the problem. And so protecting the interior becomes the move. I think that's how that would work. It's just more severe. So I think you're exactly right in saying a lot of us have this. Maybe it's the case that the 369 have it to a degree because they do see an exterior problem, but they also have that energy going interior toward the interior problem as well. I don't have a small circle of vulnerability. Like if you like my way of connecting in the world is very, very different. Like I'm gonna go build this thing. If you want to come alongside, then we're best friends. I'll give you everything I have. What do you need? And so there's like a different kind of testing, as it were, for me. I don't know if like if fours, I assume fours would be similar in terms of like if you're willing to go there relationally, emotionally, I can go there with you. I don't need to be like I imagine there are a lot of fours who can be very open, vulnerable with people that they've just met, you know, in a and there's not a test that needs to take place. And we could talk about sevens dreaming as well. But am I wrong there? Dillian, can you be like very like crazily, strangely intimate with somebody that you just met in terms of talking about your emotions?
Literally, Amanda and I are having a side
Yeah.
chat right now.
Yeah, there you go. Right.
And one of the things that I just asked her, what does your inner circle look like? Because and we both said th that there's only one person that I feel like is actually that person for me. And even with Raymond, it's like very difficult to feel like I can show him everything. However, there's a caveat. If I will never see you again and you don't matter at all, I can lay out some deep dark cards. Like that's not a
Oh,
problem.
so it's the opposite. You have like zero circle.
I The circle is one.
Wow. Okay. I got to think through that then. That's good though.
Yeah.
I mean, that's good.
But
Same,
that's
same.
but that's what's always said about fours, right? Is that you want everyone to understand you and you go through life knowing that no one will ever understand you. That sort of leads to a small circle, does it not? Is that,
Correct.
Well, yeah, the
am I saying that
expectation
right?
is that nobody's gonna really get you, so why bother?
Mm,
But yeah, it's true. I can be very transparent, very like share the deepest, darkest stuff with an acquaintance, someone in a group, a school class, or but if it comes to people I know well, hell to the no. Like, not gonna happen. I even
Yeah.
keep stuff from my husband.
Yeah.
Like I will want to share something and reveal something, but I know he can't handle it. So I just go journal it or share it with somebody that's a stranger.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the journal is the inner circle.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
And that makes sense because one of those things is being transparent and one of those things is actually being vulnerable.
Right.
Right. And so I think that's where like the vulnerability is the circle. And so it makes sense if it's like I have a circle of one or of my journal of something that's really vulnerable. But all this other stuff is just being transparent.
Well, and looking at that through the lens of these groups, right? Maybe that's the way to approach it is like, in what way is the vulnerability happening in order to create connection? And for two, fives, and eights, it's are you going to receive what I have to offer? Right. And if you can, then cool. Like that's possible. For one, fours, and sevens, it's can you meet me in this ideal space? And for fours, that means like no one can. And so therefore the circle is very small, right? But and it may be different based on two, fives, and eights, like how many people actually accept what you're offering? What does that look like? And then for three, sixes, and nines, like who's willing to be in this space with me and appreciate it?
yeah.
And then I can be
It's,
vulnerable with you.
that's a great phrasing. By the way, I'm learning so much. I'm like 1 for 20 on my pitches today. The idea that the 1, 4, and 7 are creating the ideal space. If you can meet me in the ideal space, then but that's not about vulnerability at that level.
I think it is.
Well,
Okay.
My
Talk about
ideal
it.
space is that you will be able to see everything about me and still accept and love me, and we can be in connection. I just also believe that it really can't actually happen, which is why I'm constantly frustrated or my mental the neurological way in which I am approaching the world and then shaping my reality is to say something like, I'm too broken and it can't happen. My ideal can't happen. And so therefore there's only one person that's even gotten close to being in that ideal space with me. I think for sevens, it's different. I think there's vows here, right? Like the ideal for sevens is, can you meet me on this adventure? And if you're willing to do that, can you be vulnerable with that person? I don't know.
Is
That would be my question.
is the vulnerability there about harm? Like you're not exposing yourself because of this might be too painful if I'm vulnerable, or let me phrase that an opposite here. Is it the case that just other people can't match you in that space? They just can't meet you in that space. It's about pain for you?
For me,
Okay.
Amanda, yeah, pain. It's that bonding thing for me. Like the connection won't be able to happen, and so therefore, I don't know who I am. I like what matters anymore.
Okay. Good.
So, Jeff,
Thank
let
you.
me offer as a one. I don't know if
Mhm.
this lands for you, but it definitely lands for me. So, I know, in quotations, I know exactly how the world needs to be improved. And if you can join me in that quest,
Yeah.
then we are, you know, a pair bond. We can go and do it. And
Hmm.
it's not dangerous for me to let you know how I really feel about anything because we're
Yeah.
we're on
That
our
was the
quest
test.
together,
Yeah.
right? So uh, I can I can relate to that idea for sure with regard to vulnerability. We're not really talking about ones, fours, and sevens today, but in terms of the question of vulnerability, I feel safe if your idea of how to improve the world is the same as my idea as how to improve the world. Of course, my
Correct.
idea is the correct one. So,
Or or at least it's something that's deep in your heart that is intuitively pings for you and you say this has real value. And if you can
yeah,
see the value,
yeah,
if you invest yourself in this value, then not only are we friends, but we're co-laborers, and that's what
yeah,
we desire.
absolutely.
The
We can tilt
I,
at the same windmill.
this challenging me in terms of like I need to rethink this in terms of like it may be the case that just one's may just be a little bit different here. Their perceived sense of vulnerability. To pivot back to twos, fives, and eights, I want to land the plane since we're approaching an hour and a half here. Last thoughts on how twos, fives, and eights connect and want to be connected with. I suppose I would love to pivot to the do you know what it's like to receive the gifts of the two, five, and eight? I think Katie had a fantastic illustration of this in terms of sometimes you sit down with your dad and he's going to give you a spreadsheet, and that could be a place where you're just like, I roll, thanks, Dad. I'll put this over here in a file. Actually, caring for somebody may look something like that, who is in this space. So, anything worth saying about receiving the gifts from twos, fives, and eights?
I have a 2 and an 8 that are the closest people in my life.
Mm,
And I think that it's been really incredible to think about these groups in particular, a little bit like love languages. Like this is the language in which they can connect with. And it doesn't make sense to me a lot of the time to know that like going and or truly appreciating what a 2 is offering is like sometimes I don't care, right? It's not what works for me. I want to sit down and
yes.
like delve into my soul. Like let's figure out like all of this stuff. But to realize, to understand that even though it doesn't always feel like it's what would make all of my love language explode into happiness, it is for them. And to be able to then accept it graciously, lovingly, and to understand that has been so helpful. Whether it's the the meals they're offering, whether it's the action plan or the kick in the ass, which is often what it is from the 8, and seeing that for what it is and going, okay, this is how I can express my love to you by saying yes, thank you, right? Seeing it that way. To me, it's a lot like love languages, but better.
And what happens when
Well
you
said.
actually can't receive it? Right? If I was in a relationship with an 8 for a business relationship for a number of months, and in the end, as a type 9, I could value what she was trying to offer me and what she was giving me. but I couldn't actually receive it because I couldn't handle it.
There you go.
Then what? Yeah.
Then
It's
there's a
inform
breakdown.
well, and I think that this is a really great way of being able to, I had this a similar thing with a 7, right? And to realize that I literally could not keep going down the path of the 7 adventure, and to say that doesn't mean anything wrong. It's not bad. We're not bad people for this. We're just different here. And to be able to approach it from that space is, like, we're not always going to just mesh well, right? And to be able to know that, I think, is really important. And then when you do approach it, it can be far more civil and a little less like, what is wrong with you, and or what is wrong with me.
Exactly.
I have a similar worry about love language being received for my son and his wife, right? So as a 5, it's not clear to her necessarily what he is offering. Like, he offers these little nuggets, these little intellectual things that he's collected that are correct. And I worry that she may not even recognize those as what he's contributing. I think that's all part of the same conundrum. But Jeff, how you said it has to go both ways. It's about each one that gives and each one that receives. And that seems right to me.
It's wisdom there.
Jump in really fast. I had a idea too as well about this discussion. So as a 3, I think part of the growth edge, you say, okay, my hardwiring is to detach. Learning to not just detach and cut and go back and repair, like getting the energy, the wherewithal, the courage, the whatever you call it, to go back and repair. The same. So my mom's a 7. If I'm not her ideal, right? Can she still love me? Can she still say, this is not exactly what I am seeing for you right now. I don't like your haircut or your outfit or whatever's going on with you. But can I still be present? And like with my 8 saying, is there a place where you can say, this is uncomfortable right now? Sarah said it with the story with Katie. We had to go back and we had to discuss it. And I had to realize I wasn't being rejected. Where is that growth edge, and how have people gotten something that pings a little bit for them in that number, for that little bit of growth that you can get.
I love that image. Do you have a thought, Katie, on that?
No, I think you're all correct. All of us can only bring half a solution. So, when that's what I'll say. All of us can only bring half of a solution, which is what I hear everybody saying, and a good thing to remember. And a good thing that I agree with Delian, like, it just is, we're all just different. And yeah, I agree with all of it. Thank you.
What I heard there, Galen, is like, my father's a 7. I know what it's like to try to connect with him when he is dreaming and getting big picture and pulling me into the thing. And sometimes it's not even going with him on whatever ridiculous adventure he's got in mind. It's just like dreaming with him for a second. But sometimes that's hard for me as well. As what I heard in your language was, there's the reciprocal messages that we sometimes get for folks. And so I think you said something about your hair. And if you're a 3, how someone sees you will have a value to it that may be unintentional on their end, but that's going to have a heightened value for you, which is worth naming. So important in terms of how Enneagram works, to say this person is coming from this number, this perspective. And when they have a message that washes over me at those places that I'm most sensitive, given my type, that matters. It matters to be able to say it. It matters to be able to communicate to them how things affect you on these fronts. Lots of good stuff there in terms of your language there. I don't know if that's helpful, but that's what I heard. Let me land the plane here, just as and just to kind of build on that. Sometimes we give what we have to give to others, and they don't receive it, and that's not a flaw. That's going to come across as one-ish at one part, but it's not a flaw in us, or it's not. It doesn't say anything about our value. It doesn't say anything about our aptitudes, or you know, this is just how relationships work in the world. Sometimes the flaw is entirely on the receiver of in front of us, and there is a hurt that can happen there that can be worth naming. If And that seems to me one of the great parts of life in terms of relationships, is just being able to see that, analyze that, know that, and be able to live in that. Because when somebody does receive the thing that you are bringing to the table, that's what makes those relationships so special sometimes. Not everybody's really wired to receive the things that you bring to the table. But when you can find your people who do, it's a delight, treasure. They're worth sacrificing for, in my view. And especially if you can receive their gifts, it's one of the best investments that you can make in them. So we'll pick up. I want to do 3 6s and 9s next month, which would be what, June? And that'll be second Saturday. And before you sign off, there's 2 things taking place that I want to highlight. One is the work that Katie is doing. Katie's going to be doing a new series. She's finishing up her stuff on roots, which is parent-child relationships. But you want to pitch what the sorts of things you're looking for, if you're still looking for things. I don't know if I'm overstepping here.
So my podcast, Early Access, a lot of you know that as people under 35. But I'm kind of switching it, like Jeff said. I'm actually a lot more interested. I'm a lot more interested in relationships. So I'm just inviting people on, but it has to be 2 or more. So I have parent-child, I have spouses, I have some sibling pairs, I have like some business partner pairs coming on. So this is just an open invitation. If you have somebody in your life who also knows the Enneagram and you would like to be on a podcast and be interviewed with them, let me know. You can email me, you can send us a message on Around the Circle. That's just an open invitation to anybody. If you know of 2 people you don't want to come on, but you think they would, send them my way. No age requirements anymore is the big announcement. So
I suppose, especially if they're using an Enneagram in their relationships, that's real valuable.
Yeah. If they can, like I have two sisters who are therapists, and like they use the Enneagram. So like they can talk about it a lot, right? Things like that. So
a secondary thing is building off the success of these. For me, I'm envisioning trying to create more connecting points through what we're doing on Patreon. And that would look something like this, but being a little bit more specific. So as opposed to Second Saturdays, which is just kind of open, I'm interested recently in just creating kind of more of a regular 1s are meeting this week, 2s are meeting this week, or 1s, 4s, and 7s are meeting this week. We'll talk about affect groups, but it's just those types. And I suppose those who want to learn from them. I would love a direct message, or you can find me on Instagram if this pings for you. If being on panels where you're just connecting with people of your same type would be of value. I'm brainstorming that. You can direct message me on Patreon or on Instagram, or a lot of you have my email, and that's just fine. But I'm interested in having those kinds of conversations. Of all things, these recordings have been the most popular that we release, which is shocking to me, because I consistently think I'm just like floating them out there. Oh, people need to catch up with where we're at. And oftentimes, shocker, people aren't in it for just getting more information. They're in it for being part of the community, engaging that, hearing about themselves there. So I would love them help on that. And that's what I got. So for those of you who are new, I normally stick around for an extra 20 or so, 30 or so minutes. So if you want to just talk about anything Enneagram, I'm going to stick around. But this is the official close of the 258 Affect Group discussion. And I appreciate the hell out of you spending your Saturday with us. I learned so much today, so thank you. Last words, Katie?
thank you. This is my favorite thing to do all month. This is my favorite thing I get to do ever. So thank you all for coming. I love talking to you. I look forward to it every month.
Truth. All right. Open discussion. What's on your mind? Anything we're talking about?